Welcome, nerds, once again to the news. The music section this week sees one of the biggest bands in the world all of a sudden loses their drummer. We have Instagram and Facebook are robbing you of your video quality over in gaming and tech. Deadpool and Wolverine return together once again in comics. Netflix is working on an English language adaptation of one of the biggest series they've ever put on the platform in a different language. We also have new Lord of the Rings movie is bringing an actor back from the dead in honor of Halloween. And are we about to see a Deadpool Christmas special? Rumor mill seems to think so. Let's get into all of that and a bit more. This week in music, our main headlines are we're getting the shocking news of a departing drummer from, like I said, one of the biggest bands in the world. As I Lay Dying is testing band members' morals? ? And still another band has had to cancel the remainder of their tour with Mushroomhead. And we have quite a bit more in music, so let's talk about this. All right, nerds, so we do have follow-ups and corrections. Technically have two follow-ups. The first one is more of a meta follow-up for the music section in general, and that is last week's proper episode, the audio for this section was not edited correctly, and I apologize that I didn't catch it. It's just a step that I apparently skipped because, sometimes I have long days and it's no excuse. I should have caught it. It's actually a super easy fix. So the fact that I didn't catch it is just testament to the fact that we're getting to the end of the season and I'm starting to get to that point. So my apologies. The corrected audio is over on the Clips channel. If you watch this exclusively on the main channel, then I thank you very much. However, in order for you to get the full new music section from last week, you must go over to the Clips section where I fixed the audio. So I'm gonna eat a little crow on this one. I'm so sorry. Hopefully this week is better. I am still in the present. I'm not yet in the future, so I do not know if I have forgot to correct the audio again. So please, again, just let me know in the comment section like last week, and I will do what I can to get it fixed. If it is quick enough, I should be able to re-up the main episode, but by the time I was made aware of the audio issue, it was a few days deep and we were already into our view count, so that will screw up the algorithm as far as the channel is concerned. So I just had to fix it for the Clips channel. So again, the music section, specifically the new music subsection, the audio is corrected over on the Clips channel if you missed out on that last week. And now our actual follow-up, the one that we have for this episode, it's actually kind of a big one. We touched on it last week as well. It was not part of the new music section, so the audio was just fine. It has to do with As I Lay Dying. So when I went to record last week, there was only one member of the band that had quit. Now it would seem there's only one member of the band that hasn't quit, not counting Tim Lambesis. So let's get into that. So yes, the entire band and one of their managers. I don't remember because I didn't put in the notes because I literally saw it like right as I was printing my notes off for today's episode. But it was someone who is part of the management team for the band has also quit. There still is no precise reason given to why all of these people have quit the organization of As I Lay Dying. Ken Suzy, one of my favorite metalcore guitar players who was in Unearth and is now also formerly in As I Lay Dying, kind of got the closest to saying something in that it was a challenge for his morals. I'm very much paraphrasing here. There was something that challenged his morals and it seems really weird. And then we get this rumor apparently that Tim Lambesis, lead vocalist for As I Lay Dying, the one who was sent to prison years ago for trying to do very unsavory things to his then wife. We get these rumors saying that he is now being physically abusive to his current wife, Dani. And then Dani Lambesis came out herself and said, actually, no, that's unfounded rumor and borderline liable. So we still don't know exactly what it is that's driving everyone away from Lambesis. Like I said, there is one member of the band that is still there, at least for the moment, and that's Phil Segroso. Phil has been playing guitar for the band for some time. He's the only one who's been around since the reunion as well. He was pre-dissolution or dissolved band and then also post-dissolved band. But he also has released a statement saying that he will make a proper statement about a statement. He will make a proper statement about where he stands going forward in the near future. No specifics have been given there, even as to when the near future is or might be. So it looks like we've got at least one more follow-up on this story. Hopefully it happens soon because we're getting to the end of the season, but we can cover it in the live shows. Anyway, that's where we're at with oh no, that's not all that we have. There is one other follow-up for As I Lay Dying. Amidst all of this, we have yet another weird occurrence with the band, and that is, speaking of the reunion album titled Shaped by Fire has been removed from all streaming services. This one, the band has come out and made a proper statement about the situation. They have said through publicity and such that the reason that the record has been removed from streaming services is because they had a distribution deal, and that distribution deal has concluded its natural conclusion. And so once all of the dust has settled from basically everything else that's going on right now, then that should find its way back up onto streaming platforms. However, as of right now, it has yet to find its way up there. So it very well could be a decent amount of time between now and then. But as it stands right now, that is where we are. We will have, again, at least one more follow-up on this situation when we hear from Phil Segroso. Very likely we'll have two follow-ups, that one and then what the hell's going on with their reunion record. And hopefully we'll get a little bit more clarity on the overall whatever the hell's going on with As I Lay Dying between now and then as well. Who knows? Let's just move on. So that's what we have for follow-ups and corrections. Let's jump into new music. We have a really interesting kind of range this week for new music. We're starting things off with Tom Green. Yes, the old comedian from the 90s and 2000s, that Tom Green, the Tom Green Show, who did the Bum Bum song, that guy. He's like doing serious music these days. The name of this song is Get Her Done Tonight. I say serious, it is still kind of light-hearted, I guess is probably a good way to put it. So it's not like this is a country song. The last track he released was like a freestyle rap that was legitimately impressive as well. So the fact that he can do this stuff just on a whim is really kind of interesting. But like, I don't know what else to say besides like, how is this guy just so damn good at being entertaining, and why did he take this long to get to this quality of entertainment? It seems like he's had this in him for a while, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. I just didn't really appreciate the gross out humor when the Tom Green Show was a thing. So yeah, Tom Green, Get Her Done Tonight. Absolutely a recommend, even if you're not much of a country person. Like, this is just a thoroughly entertaining like person, so indulge him in his artistry, I guess. From there, speaking of indulging people in their artistry, Vera Farmiga. You will recognize that name, not the band that she's in. The Yaga is the name of the band, but Vera Farmiga, if you don't remember, she's an actress. She's been in a lot of things. Specifically, she's in the Conjuring franchise. She was Norman's mother in the Bates Motel series. She's done a number of fairly nerdy things. So she is in a metal band. band. Metal kind of loose in this instance as far as genre categorizations, but metal adjacent at the very least. The Yagas, the name of the track that they just released with her on vocals, is called The Crying Room. It's very, very atmospheric, and also it takes a minute to get to the part where it feels like it might be an actual metal band. Previously, she's done, like, very publicly, she's done covers of Slipknot songs and stuff like that, so she's got it in her. But this is something else. I'm not gonna say this is bad, and I'm not gonna set your expectations to dislike this, because it's really cool in its atmosphericness, and also, like, it's this kind of borderline, it's not pop, it's a borderline like trip hop almost, mixed with like hard rock metal. But even saying hard rock, I feel like, is a little bit of a misnomer until you get to that third verse, I think it might be. But yeah, very interesting. Definitely check this one out, even if for an anthropological reason, just to see what the hell this is, and what certain people around about Hollywood consider metal, and then, you know, that's a thing that happens. So yeah, Vera Farmiga's band, the Yagas, The Crying Room. What do you think? Let's just talk about this one. Moving on from there, though, we have a band that I've honestly kind of wanted to talk about in the new music section for a little while, because I found them after they released, I can't remember if it was their last single, but it was a little ways after the single had already been out, or if it was just their last record. I can't remember exactly the time frame, but been kind of on the outskirts of my radar for some time. That band is a band called Filth. The name of the new track is OPP Stoppers, and this I feel like is a sound that is worthy of the quote-unquote modern nu metal label. Because this is legitimately somebody, this is very rhythmic in its instrumentation, but also the modern element kind of gives it a little bit more of a core vibe. I know I'm using a lot of silly air quotes, but it's the subgenre nonsense that really makes you feel like it doesn't exactly fit. You can't pigeonhole it there, and you just gotta listen. This is a crazy entertaining stuff. You have a vocalist who knows what the hell he's doing as far as lyricism. He's for a lack of a better term, spitting bars. He has this really cool flow, and then he also has the ability to jump into that very aggressive metal vocal, borderline like deathcore style vocal, on top of his ability to rap and just write these crazy rhymes. So yeah, definitely digging this, really getting into this groove. The name of the band again is Filth. The name of the track is OPP Stoppers, and it is absolutely worth your time, so go check it out. Next up, we have Venomoris. This is a band that some of you probably know. The name of the track that they just released off of their forthcoming second record is Spiderweb. The reason a lot of people watching this will probably know at least kind of sort of know the name of this band is because Dave Lombardo is kind of the heart and soul of this. It's he and his wife together, his wife Paula, doing this trip hop project. Like, there is no other way to put this. The mix on the drums for this, considering that is basically the genre that this falls into, the mix of the drums on here feels a little off. Like, the drum playing is fine considering the genre, but the sound of the tone coming from those drums feels like it belongs more on like an indie record. Feels like it might even belong a little bit more on like a black metal record, just because it's so reverb heavy, and that kind of takes you out of the moment a little bit, at least towards the beginning of the track. You get used to it after a while, and then you really get into it. But if you're a trip hop listener, then this is really good. This is like, wow, who knew that the dude who played drums in Slayer could do something this kind of kickback? And it's not, I mean, it's, as far as trip hop stuff goes, it's not exactly the most mellow, but it's still like, obviously that's kind of the atmosphere that they're trying to hold. So yeah, this is a recommend. Spiderweb, Venomoris. I really want to go check out their first record now because I didn't know it existed until doing research for this episode. So go check out the track Spiderweb. Let's move on. Our next piece of new music actually is a twofer. Avenged Sevenfold. You probably know that band name. Avenged Sevenfold has released 2 new cover tracks, both of them Misfits covers, so it goes along with, they previously, I think last year for Halloween, they also released a Misfits cover, but this time it is the most noteworthy of the quote-unquote Halloween Misfits tracks, and that is the song Halloween and also the song Skulls. So we're gonna take those in that order. Halloween first is the one, the most recent release of the 2 because they were a couple of days apart. So Halloween is one of the most famous punk rock songs ever. I seriously doubt you could run into somebody, they might not know who the Misfits are, but they probably know that Halloween song. At the very least, they know the refrain, Halloween, Halloween. Like that's a thing in the pop culture consciousness. And Avenged Sevenfold decided they wanted to do an acoustic version that sounded nothing like the original. Not to say that it's bad, it's just jarring in how it's so different. It's not even so different from the original that makes it so jarring, but it's so different from what you would expect out of Avenged Sevenfold even. So like, it's good, but like, whoa, is it definitely come with a couple of cautions before you listen to it. So check out Halloween for sure, but the better of these 2 tracks is Skulls by far. This instrumentally sounds a little bit more like something Avenged Sevenfold sounds like doing a punk rock cover. That makes sense sonically. And then Shadow's voice, while it sounds like they're both the same recording sessions, somehow works better on here. This is not Matt doing like his regular vocal approach. This is Matt doing like an interesting interpretation of a Danzig impression. So it doesn't work very well on the Halloween track, but really does work on the Skulls track. And it at times it's like, okay, he is trying to do a Danzig thing, but at other times it's like he's trying to set this apart as something not even a Sevenfold song vocally. So it's really, really interesting. Very much gets you into the mood for the season, and that's kind of, I think, the idea behind it. So check out the Skulls one, absolutely. Check out the Halloween one, cautiously. Let's move on from there. We have a new track from The Halo Effect. We've talked about these guys a couple of times previously. They have a new record coming out. The name of this new track, though, is March of the Unheard. Remember, these guys are all former, well, mostly anyway, former In Flames band members. And they've come together in Sweden to make more heavy music and be also awesome. Maybe not as awesome as In Flames, but pretty awesome. This track, though, I don't know if this is the best example of their sound. Instrumentally, it sounds like some butt rock, some octane core. Vocally, it sounds like a completely different thing. It sounds like it's borderline death metal if you're going vocals, because I don't think there's a single melodic line in this song, and not anything that comes to mind anyway, and I kind of just listened to it. So it's very interesting. This is one that I don't know. I mean, if you're a fan of the band, you're probably going to dig it because a fan of the band means you dig most things they do. And this is close to being in line with previous things they've done. However, if you're just a fan of heavy music, I feel like this is going to make you not know what the hell you're listening to. Because like I said, instrumentally it's not that heavy. Vocally it's very heavy, but instrumentally it really sounds like it could be something that you just get on terrestrial rock radio. Like this isn't really that anything that sets it apart. So very interesting situation. I don't know, this is it's a mild to not even barely recommend. Really, if you're a fan of the band, this is the only people that this is for. If you're not a fan of the band already, you're probably not going to dig this. So moving on to our final piece of new music for the week, we have the new Linkin Park track has just dropped. The name of the track is Over Each Other. So I have slowly been coming to the conclusion, because I've been, for whatever reason, listening to a little bit more Linkin Park, be it at work because people are just playing Linkin Park at work, or if I'm doing research for the show or what have you, like just kind of listened to a little bit more Linkin Park over the course of the last couple months since they announced their new album and new tour and stuff. They've been a little bit more on my radar, and so this is kind of a conclusion I've been coming to for a little bit of time, and this song, I think, cements it. So once again, the name of the track is Over Each Other, and this is prime example of Linkin Park is the band that writes teenage angsty music. That's the conclusion I've been getting. Like this, there's really not much depth to what they do by and large, outside of I'm young and I have this song specifically is about being in a bad relationship. They have other ones where it kind of sounds like, it kind of sounds like you're talking to your parents and you just don't agree with your parents. And they have other songs where it's like, my friends don't get me and I'm just alone. So it's that kind of stuff, and it's continuing on with this new vocalist. Not to say that they're bad songwriters at all. This is absolutely something that's going to get stuck in your head. This is absolutely something that's going to get a ton of radio play. I feel like I'm losing interest in Linkin Park. I'll always really dig the first two records, actually. The Minutes to Midnight is also a really good record. But just lyrically, I feel like I've very much gone a very far distance away from where they are lyrically. And they're still there lyrically, it would seem. So yeah, if you like Linkin Park, if you like catchy music, this is for you, but that's probably going to be about it. That is everything we have for the new music section. Let's now jump over to the tours and festivals. We have just got the announcement for When We Were Young 2025, so next year's When We Were Young concert will be October 18th of 2025, and this one is in Las Vegas. Interesting note before we get into some of the artists that are going to be at the show. Interesting note, you can purchase VIP cabana tickets. So you get your own shaded area. You get a VIP cabana. You can start paying for them on a layaway plan now. It's a year away. It's kind of brilliant marketing, but that's a weird sign of the times that we're in right now as far as live music is concerned. That festival like this, while it is an all-day festival, it is just one day this year. I feel like previous years it's been 2 days. Am I wrong? But it is just one day this year. And you have to put $20 down, and it's a layaway situation, so you're paying monthly on your concert tickets. Like, there's something, like there's a disconnect somewhere in the industry that we're laying away concert tickets. Sure, it's for VIP access and a cabana, but like it's still at the base of it all concert tickets. So you're putting layaway down on. Okay, so of note on this bill, some of the bigger names, there's also, we'll get to that. Some of the bigger names, we have Panic at the Disco, Blink-182, Weezer, The Offspring, just kind of more of the same of the style of bands that have been on the bills for the last few years. Hence the When We Were Young title of the festival, right? Because it's capitalizing on the nostalgia stuff. And then you get a little bit further down on the list of bands and you see Kubla Khan, and you see, what was the other one that I used as an example? Kubla Khan and The Plot in You. These are bands that are from the last like 3 to 5 years. How does this quantify as When We Were Young? Like Motionless in White, even for me, because I'm old, they feel like a new band. So like, having somebody within that is not even halfway through the last decade away from when they became, part of the pop culture conversation is very odd Like, why is this? I guess it goes to show that the nostalgia bait stuff only goes so far, and then you got to start booking just regular bands. So I don't know. But either way, it sounds like a pretty cool bill. Eventually, I feel like I'm going to see one of these When We Were Young shows, but I don't know. It's probably going to be a couple years, not going to lie. You can find link down in the description. We'll take you to the pre-order and all of the information that you need. Go follow the link down in the description. Next tour on the list is Killswitch Engage has just announced their 2025 tour with support from none other than Kubla Khan. Kubla Khan, Fit for a King, and Frozen Soul, to be more specific. This tour starts March 5th in Nashville, Tennessee, runs through April 12th in Portland, Minnesota. I'm sorry, Maine. I have my state abbreviation incorrect on here. But Portland, Maine. Pre-sales start Wednesday the 30th. So today, hopefully, as you're watching this, because I do have things going on tonight that are going to affect the episode, but we'll get to that in the housekeeping section. So yeah, pre-sales go on Wednesday the 30th, and then the actual ticket sales go out on Halloween Day, I believe. Speaking of Halloween Day ticket sales, we have Alice Cooper has announced another leg for his Too Close for Comfort tour. January 31st in Augusta, Georgia, running through February 11th in St. Augustine, Florida. This seems to be the announcement of the southern United States leg, because it's basically those two states. I think there's like a Tennessee date in there, but still the South. So, and it's only like 8 dates from January 31st to February 11th. So go check out, again, link in the description. Those tickets go on sale on the 31st as well. That is what we have for tours and festivals. Let's get into some regular ass news. Been itching to get to this point already. Primus, Primus is losing their drummer once again. Tim Alexander has quit the band for the third time. Yes, that is right. The third time. The first time he quit was in 1996. The second time he quit was in 2010. And now, again, the third time he has quit was about 2 weeks ago, actually. The band took 2 weeks to make the announcement public. He notified them via email on the 17th of October. And so now they're telling everybody, hey, by the way, we're not canceling any of our dates. We're just going to be minus Tim, so there's going to be somebody else playing on stage with us. And they've specifically called out that they're going to be using members from, I just lost my notes, from the bands Holy Mackerel and the Frog Brigade. Both, I'm pretty sure both of those are Les Claypool projects. So very interesting. And the reason for Alexander leaving, the reason why Tim Alexander just isn't playing with Primus anymore, is because he doesn't feel passionate about making music right now. Which is his prerogative, I guess. I don't know. It just feels like a weird... I think he's used that excuse previously as well, so it just strikes me as odd. But then you got the likes of Brain playing with Primus back in the day when he quit. I believe in 2010 is when Brain... Correct me if I'm wrong. It might have been at the 96 breakup. Either way. Yeah, so Primus... sans drummer. Very strange. Moving on, our other piece of news has to do with the band Upon a Burning Body. These guys are currently, well, they were rather currently on tour with Mushroomhead and have had to pull out, cancel even, the rest of their responsibilities on this tour with Mushroomhead. When I first heard this, I was like, oh, what did Skinny do now? Actually has nothing to do with Mushroomhead, so kudos to the guys in Mushroomhead for not being total jerks. But yeah, so what's going on is Upon a Burning Body, their guitar player had apparently a very large family emergency, because not only are they canceling their supporting dates with Mushroomhead, they had a solo headlining date in Kentucky on the 27th that they also had to cancel. They have not officially said it on their social medias, so the notice that you're seeing on the screen right now, assuming you're watching the show and not just listening, is from their Instagram. They have not said it on their social media, but they did say it at the concert that they had to cut short when the emergency happened. They come out on stage and said, unfortunately, our guitar player has had a family emergency and we need to do everything in our power to get him to the people who need him most, that he loves and is related to. And so we are going to have to not be playing tonight. That was you can see that on other people's social media. I'm not going to link to the video necessarily because they have also asked for their privacy. So you can see that. That is what we have for regular ass news this week, though. So let's get into our suggestion for the week. Music suggestion this week is The Misfits' Legacy of Brutality. This is the record that gave us the Halloween song. It's one of the all-time classic punk rock records. It is not the most well-known Misfits record by any, I mean, there's a couple I think that would qualify as bigger, but again, it is the record that gave us Halloween. So that is your recommendation this week. Notable tracks on the album, we have Halloween, American Nightmare, Some Kind of Hate, and Who Killed Marilyn are a couple of my favorites. So go check it out. Misfits, Legacy of Brutality. This week in Gaming and Tech, Instagram and Facebook are stealing your video quality. We finally have some sort of actual hard teaser evidence of Ghostface in Mortal Kombat 1, and we have a very rare instance of a gaming company not trying to milk every last penny out of its fans. Is it going to be a good thing or a bad thing? Let's talk about this. We have a really cool follow-up this week in Gaming and Tech, just the one though, and it's really not a proper game. Let's get into it. Fallout London is a thing that we've talked about a number of times actually here on the channel, and it's reached a pretty noteworthy milestone at this point. So for those that don't remember, Fallout London is a mod essentially for Fallout 4. So what the development team has put together is basically a DLC for Fallout 4, because it is a whole new map. You get all these new missions, you get a bunch new enemy types, it's crazy in depth. It is a whole nother game unto itself, and you get it for free as long as you have Steam on, or is it GOG? I can't remember. GOG, I apologize. GOG, it has gone, they have been downloaded. That's the proper terminology. The DLC has been downloaded more than 1 million times at this point. So it's freaking huge. The Fallout New Vegas adaptation for Fallout 4 never came to fruition because of issues with Bethesda. I don't know what the difference is between the development for London versus the development of New Vegas in the Fallout 4 engine, but this is pretty awesome. I wish we would have gotten the New Vegas one as well, but you gotta, take them where you can get them. So that's pretty awesome. Congratulations to the development team. I believe this is also the same development team that is now going public. They're now becoming a proper development team. They're not just doing these things on the side. They're going to start making games, but that's not the news we're talking about. Let's move on, shall we? Next, we have one trailer this week to talk about as well, and it only barely qualifies as a trailer because it's a teaser and it's like 25 seconds long. Mortal Kombat 1 Ghostface teaser. We now actually have a proper release date for it as well because the teaser has come out, and we have a pretty good look at a lot of the gear that Ghostface is going to be launching with as well, or going to be available to Ghostface throughout the course of the game. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's November 19th is going to be the release date for Ghostface into Mortal Kombat 1. And we still don't know a whole lot about his actual gameplay, because basically everything that they took for this teaser is cinematics. Even the fatality bit that you see from the previous trailer and also in this is technically a cinematic. It's a fatality cinematic, but it's still a cinematic. So we don't see really any gameplay in here. We just get a lot of gear and atmosphere and Halloween-y things. So it's fun, it's quick, go check it out. That's the only trailer we got though, so let's get into some regular ass news. This week, we're gonna kick things off in this subsection for Gaming and Tech is Instagram, and by extension, Facebook as well, but video quality is being downscaled on unpopular videos. This is kind of weird, though, I mean, from a business standpoint, it kind of makes sense. What's happening is You upload a video to either platform, Facebook or Instagram, doesn't matter. You upload a video to these platforms that are owned by Meta. I think that's the connecting thread. I don't know if this is also applying to Threads, but it could, because it's all the same company, right? So I don't use Threads, so I have no idea if you can even upload videos to Threads. But your video gets uploaded and say it's in 1080p, right? It's vertical, but it's still 1080. If you don't get a certain level of virality, if you don't get a certain level of popularity, if not enough people watch your video after a certain point, they're going to degrade the quality of your video, presumably to save on bandwidth and storage costs, though I don't know the storage part, because technically that means they have multiple copies of the same video, because should your video actually catch virality after said date, which they have not made known, so there's no like, if it does well after the first 3 days, then we're not gonna they haven't said anything, but they have said that it gets throttled. You're losing video quality. So if it does after that point in time get popular, then they will bounce you back up to your proper resolution. But if you don't upload a popular video, it's just going to be slightly soft and fuzzy because bandwidth or something. I didn't see a justifiable excuse for this. I feel like this is a little shady. YouTube doesn't do this, and it's like twice the size of both of these things put together. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we got for the Instagram thing. And then our other piece of regular ass news for gaming and tech is Valve this week. So Valve, you will remember, they actually made video games at one point, and now they just kind of rake it in with, what is it, their game store and with Steam, right? And then with their Steam Deck. So the Steam Deck, it's been a little while since we got any sort of update on that, and that is by design. There were two of the bigwigs. Where'd they go? Interview with Valve designers Lawrence Yang and Yazan Al-Hayat, I think is maybe how that's pronounced. I apologize. They said in interviews, separate interviews, they said in interviews that it's not going to be a yearly iteration on the same hardware. They're not going to do minor updates for their hardware. They're going to treat it like a console where you get generational updates. So that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for what they consider a generational improvement. No specifics on what would quantify a generational improvement, though, again, we kind of have a format for this because this is how consoles have gone forever. Generally speaking, a console's lifestyle, when I was younger, it was approximately 10 years. Now I would say it's more close to like 6 to 8 years is a generation. So very likely we're not going to see a new iteration of the Steam Deck for a few years yet. So very interesting. Kind of kudos to Valve on this one, because they're not just updating to update, they're updating with purpose at this point. They don't want people to be disappointed when they purchase a new Steam Deck and it's basically the same as the one they got last year or even 2 years ago. So yeah, I dig it. I wish this was the philosophy of more in the tech sphere. But that being said, that's what we got for regular ass news. Let's get into our suggestion this week. I've done this once before. It didn't really go over as well, but I'm gonna try it again. For suggestions this week, because I keep having my head in Mortal Kombat, and if I'm not playing Mortal Kombat, I'm probably playing Halo if I'm playing anything. I'm gonna turn this one around and you guys suggest something in the comment section. What are you playing? What is there something like seasonal that fits with the Halloween theme that you're playing that I'm super intrigued? I want to hear all about it down in the comment section. So that's what we got there. Comic books and books this week, we have Deadpool and Wolverine returning once again together. Alien Romulus getting a prequel, and also season 4 of Stranger Things is getting a prequel. So it's a very, very interesting situation going on there. No follow-ups, no corrections, no trailers this week either in comic books. We just have regular ass news. Kicking things off, we have Deadpool and Wolverine, a new book, a new ongoing book. This isn't going to be set number of issues or anything like that, like we previously got. So if you remember, over the course of the summer, we got Weapon Extraction. Yes, Weapon Extraction, which brought these two together, and that was like an 8-issue miniseries or maxi series, whatever. Now we're getting an ongoing series with these two characters. The writer rather is going to be Benjamin Percy, who previously wrote for X-Force. We have art from Joshua Cassera, who previously did art for the X-Men proper team. That is the creative team. I mean, at this point, it's kind of proved to me it's not a cash grab, because like that kind of feels like what this is. The Wolverine and Deadpool did really well in theaters, and now they have an ongoing book. Okay, what is there? What substance is there, guys? Let's see. Maybe it's gonna be great. The way that they're billing it is they want it to feel like 80s action movie. They're not taking inspiration from the theatrical released movie. This actually went into development before the movie was even released. Though when you say that in an interview, you definitely are leaving out the fact that you work for the parent company of the people that are making the theatrical movie, so you probably had some inside information. And also, the previous two Deadpool movies exist, so you know where they're going with this. So to say that it's not influenced by the Deadpool movie, the popularity of the Deadpool movies, is probably a little bit disingenuous. To say that it's heavily or not heavily influenced by that is probably fair. But to say that it's not at all influenced by that seems a little fake. Either way, they're also saying that they want it to feel like 80s action movies. They want it, you know, you could turn the page and see Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone or Jean-Claude Van Damme, and that would fit. That would make sense, the way that they're writing the action and all the stuff in these books. Or in this book, rather. So, yeah, just interested to see how that translates. When is it coming out? Did they have that? No release date on it just yet, but they are working on it, so it'll happen soon. And I mean, I'm sure I probably just overlooked the release date if it already exists, so please somebody correct me in the comment section. That's what we got on that one, though. Let's talk about Alien Romulus next. We have a prequel to the movie that did fairly well when it came out. If you wanted to see how Romulus Station got in the middle of a xenomorph infection, this is that story, it would seem. We have writer Zach Thompson and art from Daniel Picciotto. It's a hell of a last name. I apologize for definitely mispronouncing it. This is also going to be in collaboration with the team who wrote the script for the movie. Director Fede Alvarez and co-writer Rodo Sayagues, I think is how that is pronounced. They will also be putting their 2 cents in the story as well. So that's pretty dang cool. That's what we got on that one. Our next piece is Rise of Hellfire. This is a Stranger Things prequel. This is Eddie Munson. This is kind of this retells the story of the D&D campaign that got Eddie Munson into Dungeons and Dragons, and then, you know, subsequently got our heroes in Stranger Things, Dustin and Lucas and the other kid. Oh, it's in the notes. I swear to God, it is Mike. There we go. Dustin, Mike, and Lucas all get the, you know, they get sucked into the D&D as well because of Eddie Munson, and that is the story that we're getting here. This is technically a crossover between the Dungeons and Dragons franchise and the Stranger Things franchise, but I feel like Stranger Things is kind of an ongoing crossover situation with the Dungeons and Dragons franchise. So we have the creative team is as follows. Where did my notes on that one start? We have writer Jody Hauser, previously wrote for Stranger Things Tales from Hawkins. Writer also Eric Campbell, previously wrote for Dungeons & Dragons World and Realms. Art from Diego Galindo. We have... colors. We have colors from Diana Souza, and we have lettering from Nate Piekos. Yeah, this is probably going to do well. It's Stranger Things, it's D&D, sounds like a lot of fun. That's what we got there. Let's move to our next one, which is Star Wars Legacy of Vader. Another book that nobody asked for. New Kylo Ren ongoing book that takes place between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Destined for shelves February 2nd, 2025. Writer is Charles Soule, which is interesting because Soule does pretty good stuff, and art from Luke Ross. I feel like this is really them being Disney and the parent company of Marvel at this point, really trying to push an era of Star Wars that nobody really has any love for right now. Like, you're not gonna stop trying to make that a thing. That's just not gonna happen. But I mean, again, Charles Soule does not do terrible work, so I'm intrigued at the very least. Again, February 2nd, 2025 is when that will be out on shelves. Next up, we have another sequel in comic book form, kind of, and that is Trick or Treat Witching Hours. Trick or Treat, the anthology horror movie that everybody watches at Halloween time because little Sam is just too adorable to not watch and also be super creeped out by. But this is going to be also anthological in nature, so it's going to be a collection of stories. It is going to be done, one of the head writer on the project is Michael Dougherty, who is the creator of the movie as well. He has teamed up with a series of legit comic book writers in the industry that are going to do, again, more stories from the world established in the movie. It is being run through a Kickstarter. So the link for that Kickstarter is down in the description if you want to go check that out. I mean, Trick or Treat we're going to talk about it again in the movie section, so stick around for that, but is kind of a classic at this point. So it's kind of cool that we're finally getting something, and maybe we're gonna get something else. Again, we'll talk about that in a moment. That is, though, what we have for the regular news for this section. Let's talk about our suggestions this week. Again, Halloween time. Let's get into comic book Halloween suggestion. This week it is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Check out Volume 1. That is the book that the Netflix series was based on. It was written by the producer on the Netflix series, written by a man named Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. He's the head of the Archie comics these days. He got his start in the horror stuff, the Archie horror, and now is over the entire bit because he's just good enough to do that. So yeah, it's very interesting, very much a Halloween book and a whole hell of a lot of fun, if not kind of darker than you might be expecting, considering it's an Archie book technically. So just be aware that it's a little dark. Either way, that's your suggestion for the week. TV and streaming. Netflix is being very tight-lipped about their new TV show that is an English language adaptation of another very popular TV show. The Simpsons are taking over the NFL, and update finally on Fallout Season 2 over on Prime. Okay, follow-ups and corrections here in the TV streaming section. So we talked last week, I kind of blurred out a section of the bit, but we talked last week about the Tim Pool situation, and literally the day I was editing was the next episode for Tim Pool, and lo and behold, as I drop my notes, lo and behold, the Tim Pool IRL did not go the way of the buffalo. It is still around. It is still being conducted in basically the same manner. However, there have been a number of changes behind the scenes as far as the Tim Pool company is concerned. The biggest of which I feel like is the dissolution, it would seem, of his Scanner News website and everyone involved in that. Oh man, so there's so much to infer here, and anyone who's saying that they know who isn't Tim Pool or one of his former employees is definitely trying to sell you a bill of goods, but the inferences, I would be very surprised if they were wrong at this point. The long and the short of it is Scanner News, the website still exists, scnr.com I believe. Still exists, but it's been a number of weeks since anything was written for that site. Tim has taken to promoting timcastirl.com or timcast.com or whatever his website is that isn't Scanner News on the show anymore. So it seems that they're shifting focus back over to the main Timcast website, which again implies that he got rid of his entire Scanner News staff, which was probably a good chunk of those 30 people he said were working for him. And it seems just so incredibly misguided. I stand by everything else I did leave in the last episode. This seems like it boils down to Tim Pool being bad at managing people, being bad at running a company. He needs to install a chief operations officer, I mean, and have that person be in charge of making sure everything behind the scenes happens so that Tim can continue to be the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, and also the Chief Talent as well. Oh man, there is so much that feels like a 13-year-old pitching a fit when you look at what has happened over the course of the last week with Timcast IRL. The caliber of guest has gone down a bit, maybe not as much as I was anticipating he was going to be scaling things down, but I think it's more of he doesn't have a proper booking agent kind of situation, more so than just him scaling things back necessarily. So I don't know, it's an interesting situation. I don't know that we're going to talk about it necessarily directly on the show again unless something else happens. Oh, also of note, we have the word that Luke Rudkowski and Hannah Claire Bremelo both are going to be heading over to The Quartering in a similar, though not the same fashion that they were fulfilling over on the Timcast side of things. So very interesting. It's kind of cool to see that Jeremy has the ability to poach former employees from Tim Pool, and Tim Pool doesn't even really feel it would seem. So I don't know, just an interesting situation as far as episodic content is concerned, because it's not really a TV show, but it is, but it isn't, and whatever. All right, so let's move from there. We have other things to talk about in follow-ups. The next one is Good Omens. We finally have some sort of conclusion to the situation behind the scenes over at Good Omens for Amazon Prime. Season 3, if you remember, is what they were working on when the whole thing with Neil Gaiman kind of exploded and all of the accusations and everything. And so season 3 was put on hold, and since they had filmed a good chunk of it seemed like they were going to do something in order to make sure that time was not wasted for all of the people involved. Well, we now know that what they're going to do is, instead of doing a proper third season, be it, approximately 8 episodes, an hour each, what we're going to get is one episode that is feature in length. So it's going to be approximately 90 minutes of Good Omens over on Amazon Prime, and that is what's going to conclude the series, and we're not going to revisit anything from Neil Gaiman ever again, it would seem. Yeah, it's just such a weird situation with all of that stuff. Moving on, our next one has to do with Tomb Raider. The animated Tomb Raider series, speaking of Netflix, animated Tomb Raider series is getting a second season even before the first season has released. So that's very interesting, but also shows that Netflix is confident in it. And then our final follow-up this week is Fallout. Amazon Prime Fallout is going into principal photography sometime in the month of November. That brings us over into trailers. We got a couple of them. Actually, our first trailer this week was skipped somehow last week. It was in the notes. I just didn't, for whatever reason, see it in the notes. Dune Prophecy. We finally got a proper trailer for Dune Prophecy. It's not just a little glimpse. It's not a little tease. It is an actual trailer. This is what I'm hoping is going to be the next Game of Thrones, because it's on Max, just like Game of Thrones technically is. I really hope that they do it with the care that it deserves, because the Dune story is one for the ages and just is fantastic. Go check out the trailer. It looks like they're setting up to be something epic, like it should be. So that leaves a lot of room for them to fall because I'm putting them up on that crazy high pedestal. So the other trailer we got this week is another horror themed trailer, and this is for a show called Earth Abides. And it's going to MGM Plus, which is where From is currently airing. And it's, again, a post-apocalyptic horror-themed show, or thriller, I guess, themed show, but it's not zombies. This almost, like, you watch this trailer and it feels like the person, the showrunner, I would assume, the person responsible for getting this together, it seems like they went to the producers and said, all right, so here's my pitch. It's Walking Dead, but no zombies. We're just gonna focus on the people without the hazards of the zombies in the background constantly there to keep tensions high. We're just gonna keep tensions high through other means that don't have anything to do with dead people and zombies and so on and so forth. So very interesting. I'm definitely intrigued in where this is going, how they can pull this off, if they can pull this off. Again, MGM Plus, it does come out December 1st. So I think, no, we still will have a couple of episodes of From left. So they're going to be running 2 high-profile series over on MGM Plus. I don't know, man. Maybe it's worth your time to look into a MGM Plus subscription if this Earth Abides show turns out to be any good. That is, though, what we have for trailers. Let's get into regular-ass news. Our first piece for regular-ass news has to do with The Simpsons on the NFL. This is a weird one, but we do know that the Simpsons are going to be taking over the NFL broadcast as it is on December 9th, and we're going to be seeing real-time Simpsons interacting with people in the players and coaches and so on and so forth on the field. So yeah, super intrigued. It is going to be, the Simpsons characters are going to be voiced by their original actors, so they're not going to get different actors coming in. I don't fully know what to make of this. It is going to air on ESPN and Disney Plus, and then a couple of other different places that are all owned by Disney, so why is it even important to list them? I don't know. But then the VOD, the video on demand, is going to be live approximately 12 hours after the game ends. So the game, if you're curious, the game is going to be the Bengals and the Cowboys, again, December 9th. They're broadcasting from Springfield, it would seem. And there's also going to be more than just the characters on the field talking to players while they're on the sidelines, etc., etc. But there's going to be original scripted content before the game, at points during the game, and then also after the game. So very intrigued by this. This is possibly a sign of things to come as it pertains to streaming services and like the things that they can offer us is to keep us interested in paying them money for things we don't necessarily watch every day. That is what we got there, though. Our other piece of regular-ass news this week has to do with Squid Game over on Netflix. Squid Game is getting apparently an English language adaptation on Netflix. The really noteworthy thing here is that David Fincher, who gave us Sex, Love, and Robots and Fight Club and a number of other amazing movies, and the Mindhunter as well, the series on Netflix, Fincher is being brought in to develop this show, to adapt, I guess would be more appropriate, the Squid Game Korean version into an English version. So Fincher being in charge could make this interesting. If it was anyone of a lower profile than that, I feel like it would be totally not worth a watch, but because the original is there, why do we need an English language one when there's a dub and a sub on the original? I just don't understand that. But then David Fincher, so I'm definitely intrigued. That's what we got, though. Let's get into our suggestion this week for TV streaming. This one is over on Peacock, so if you have a Comcast cable connection, then you probably have a very low-grade Peacock subscription, but that's all you need in order to watch Teacup. That is our suggestion this week. There are strange parallels to the From series that I won't shut up about, but that's not to say that it's the same as From. Not even really kind of the same as From. You just get like these weird like ghosts of the way that they tell the story in From that exists in the way they tell the story here in Teacup. I'm about 5 episodes in myself, and so far so good. It's not as aggressive as From. I don't know if that's a great way to describe it. It's not as gory. It's definitely not as violent. It is not as frightening. It is not as heart attack inducing as From. It's kind of like they took From, which is cranked to 20, not even 11, but all the way up to 20. And then they cranked it back down to about 8 or so. So it's good. I don't want to undersell it. It is absolutely a hell of a lot of fun to be watching, especially considering the time of year that we are in. I hope to get it finished by the time the month ends, and that is your suggestion this week. Go watch Teacup over on Peacock. This week in movies, The Lord of the Rings has found a way without AI to bring us one final performance from one of the best actors in the first series of movies rather. The Wayans brothers are getting creative control over a franchise they started just about actually a little over 20 years ago now. And Halloween Classic might just be getting a sequel if the stars align just right. We'll talk about that. Our follow-up this week in movies is a little bit quick, I guess. Running Man, we've talked about the fact that they're remaking Running Man. Glenn Powell is going to be starring in it. Edgar Wright is going to be directing it. The real quick follow-up we have this time is Michael Cera and Emilia Jones have both been asked to join the cast of the movie, which means Michael Cera will be rejoining Edgar Wright once again for another movie, and it went over pretty well last time, so why not this time too? Yeah, that's all we really got. Let's move on. Trailers. We have one trailer this week. Is for a movie called Werewolves, and it will be out December 6th. This looks like a testament for practical effects. This looks like it's going to be really great, at least visually, because of that very reason. Unless they just got incredibly good on a really low budget with the digital effects, I think that a lot of this stuff looks like it's going to be practical effect, and I am definitely here for that. Go check out the trailer. You'll see what I'm talking about. That's the only trailer, though, that we got, so let's get into regular-ass news. This week's news, we have Predator is in the news. 20th Century Studios has confirmed that there is not one but 2 new Predator movies in the works, one of which is very likely going to be out very, very soon. Exactly how soon was not made known, but soon. With the success of Predator Prey, it seems that basically they've given Dan Trachtenberg the carte blanche to do whatever he wants with the Predator franchise. There's also things out there that are lending one to believe that there will be a crossover, another AVP movie, hopefully undoing anything that they tried to do with the first 2 AVP movies. But that is definitely not explicit at this point. And also, of the 2 movies, only one has anything that we really know about it. The second one, they're playing really close to the chest, and they're not giving us any details on it, which has led to much speculation, which we will get to in the rumor mill, so stick around. But yeah, new Predator, not a bad thing. There's really not many terrible Predator movies if you don't include the Aliens versus Predator movies. So yeah, I'm definitely here for it to see. I don't know, not the Prey one, but the other one was not great. Either way, I'm here for it. Let's see what happens. Moving on. Next up, we have Scary Movie is our next piece. Keenan Ivory Wayans, Marlon Wayans, and what is the other Wayans? Sean Wayans. All 3 Wayans brothers, not the only Wayans brothers, but the 3 who we know from the Scary Movie franchise, who wrote and two of them starred in the first two Scary movies, and then they were bought out by Miramax, and then Miramax went and drove the franchise into the ground, and now they've brought them back. Miramax is under new management, and so they didn't sell the rights back to the Wayanses. At least that's not the way that it's being advertised to the press at this point, but they have brought them back as producers, writers, and presumably we'll see at least one of the Wayans brothers in the next movie. But they also brought back Rick Alvarez, who also helped write the first two movies. So this should be a return to form for the Scary Movie franchise. As it stands right now, though, that's all we know, so let's move right along. Let's talk about that trick-or-treat thing I alluded to in the comic book section. Trick or Treat, director Michael Dougherty, in the recently released 4K version of the original movie, there's a new commentary track. And that commentary track, he says, he passively talks about the script for the second movie is in a good place that he wants. He's just going to be doing it all on his own terms. So certain things have to align just perfectly in order for him to pull the trigger and say, okay, it's time to do the sequel to Trick or Treat. But we could get a sequel to Trick or Treat. He has said fairly explicitly that there is a script and it is something that he likes and he does want to do it. But again, we need production staff, we need somebody who's going to distribute it, we need all of these other things to line up perfectly, and as it stands right now, that has not happened. But if it does, we'll talk about it. And then that puts us to our last piece in regular news, and that is Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim, War of Rohirrim. So we've talked about this previously. Technically, this would quantify as a follow-up, I think, but it's kind of huge. So I didn't want to talk about it in follow-ups. I want to talk about it in regular-ass news. Christopher Lee is returning for the animated movie. This is not an AI thing. I looked through a number of different articles covering this, and at least 3 different articles, and I was trying to see exactly how they're doing this. So they didn't go into explicit detail, but they did not at all mention AI was being used. They said that the vocal takes, the vocals that they're using for his animated version of Saruman is going to be from unused audio from the Peter Jackson movies. So different takes, different scenes that were cut from the movie. I don't know if they're going to qualify scenes that were in the extended version or not. That was kind of a gray area, but different takes that weren't used, different, again, scenes that were completely cut out of the movies. All of the audio that he recorded for those is being used to do the voice of his character, Saruman, in the War of the Rohirrim. This is pretty dang awesome. They got the official approval, too, from Lee's estate. Producer Philippa Boyens talked to the family of the knighted actor and got permission to use these things even posthumously in honor. And I believe it was his daughter said that he would absolutely want this to be done this way. So that's pretty freaking cool. Yeah, I'm super excited about it. December 13th is when the movie will be in theaters, if you needed the reminder. That is, though, our last piece of news for the section. Let's get into our suggestion for the week. We have movie suggestions. It's Halloween. It's time for, going to get candy and having a lot of fun and watching classic Halloween movies. Normally, right now, because this is our last episode before Halloween comes out, before Halloween happens, rather, I would be suggesting Halloween, the classic 1978 Michael Myers horror movie with the mask and the knife and the coveralls. That's the best Halloween horror movie there is. But as far as just family fun Halloween, your actual suggestion this week is going to be Hocus Pocus. I don't normally send people over to Disney Plus unless there's a really good reason, and I really feel like Hocus Pocus is a really good reason. This is just a classic Halloween movie at this point. Horror elements for sure, but not scary. It's something that the entire family can watch, and also sit and question why it's such a big deal that presumably a sophomore in high school is still a virgin. Like, why is that made into such a gigantic issue in this movie? I don't know, but that's the only nitpick I really have with the entire dang movie. It's a lot of fun. Go check it out. Your suggestion this week is Hocus Pocus over on Disney+.
Maybe. It's classified.
Rumor mill this week, we have another potential Christmas special. This time the rumors are surrounding Deadpool. We also have Dark Captain America actor rumored to be cast, as well as the actor set to play Martian Manhunter in the DCU. All of these rumors and a bit more. Let's jump into it. Okay, so new sources, old rumors, right here in the rumor mill. We have one. It's Spider-Man 4. We have a new source that is suggesting that Null and Venom won't be in Spider-Man 4, whereas all of our other sources are saying that they will be in Spider-Man 4. So this is an interesting conversation. If you consider other rumors we're about to cover that we haven't talked about previously, this almost makes a little bit of sense. But it's also a little bit misleading because I do still think that we're going to get Null in the MCU 616. We're just potentially not going to see him in the Spider-Man 4 movie for reasons we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, just an interesting situation that the sources, and this is decent sources, not the best sources. The people who are saying that Null and Venom will be in the movie are definitely stronger sources. So that's all we got though for new sources. Let's talk about new rumors. We're gonna kick things off with Predator, like we talked about in the movie section. The second Predator movie is rumored to be, this is the secret one, if you will. It is rumored to be an animated anthology movie. And I don't think that's the way it's gonna happen at all. I almost went 50-50 on this. I'm gonna just not give this out on top. I almost went 50-50 on this because, like, there's really not a lot there. But animation, I mean, there was an animated series that dealt with Predator back in the early 90s, I believe. Or maybe he just guessed, I can't remember exactly. Either way, animated would imply that because it is Western and because it is Disney at this point, and animated anything from Disney right now, I don't think they've broken out of the GPG, maybe slightly harsher than PG kind of way of doing animation. So that seems very unlikely, but also we've never seen anything along those lines for anything Predator related, which isn't to say that it can't exist. It just means it's a little bit less likely because the franchise as it stands, while it is well known, is not highly regarded, is not so prevalent in the popular conversation that they can just do whatever they want with the franchise. They need to keep it solid and squarely on brand in order to keep people's interest until they do get the proliferation to a point where it is so saturated that you can do something different with that storytelling property. So that's just the kind of the long way of saying I don't think it's going to happen that way. And the reason we went as high as we did is because there's also not really a lot of actual evidence besides just inference on either side. So we're going to say 40% likely that there's going to be an animated anthology movie made for the Predator really at any point in the next few years, 5 to 8, I'll even say. Next on the list, we have Mandalorian and Grogu. There is a rumor that I was unable to corroborate through any of the actual reliable sources, which is why it is a rumor and not fact, but there is a rumor that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie has supposedly finished filming already and are going into post-production now. It would kind of make sense. I don't remember the release date on there, so I would have to know that to be a little bit more confident in that statement, but I do know it is within the next 2 years. There's a lot that is riding on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, so I think Lucasfilm really wants to take their time. Though there's some Iger things going on in the behind the scenes that I think maybe might put a little bit of a monkey wrench in that, but there's really no way. I take that back. There is plenty of way that we're going to be able to substantiate this rumor, and that's because we're going to hear it from, at the very least, one of the trades over the course of the next couple weeks. And I don't know if that's going to happen, because I feel like it would be coming from the trades first before it was coming from anyone else as far as hard facts like this. So that's why we're only splitting the difference, going to go 50-50, because this is coming from a different source outside of the trades, when it is something that should presumably be the fodder, just the primary focus for something that the trades would be putting out. So next up, we have the Deadpool Christmas special. This is an interesting situation. So we have pictures that Ryan Reynolds has put up on his social medias that have Christmas decorations in the past. He's wearing the Deadpool uniform, obviously not the Deadpool mask, which is one of the signs that I think I'm right on this, but we'll get there. So we have Ryan Reynolds posting these pictures talking about how it was lovely to see the actress who played Blind Mag. I can't think of her name right now. It's not in the notes because I take amazing notes. Say it with me, class. Wonderful to see her. That was fun today. Everybody's really reading into the word usage that Ryan is using in these social media posts, and it seems like everyone is kind of missing a big thing, and that is that we're about to get Christmas bundles, and collector's editions are a thing, and the rumor is that all of these things are pointing to a new movie, be it a Christmas or a limited special that they do on Disney Plus, like we got with Werewolf at Midnight, and we're very possibly going to be getting with Silver Surfer and maybe other characters also. But Deadpool is way too... I mean, they did it with the Guardians of the Galaxy, so it kind of makes sense. But Ryan Reynolds being without makeup in those photos definitely says to me, and also the fact that a lot of the stuff that's in those photos you can link back a number of months at this point, says to me that they're getting ready for promotion and not that they're filming new content for some other project, be it a short or whatever, a straight TV special. It really feels like this is a direction that they're not headed in. It's more promotion to sell Christmas bundles for the movie. So we're giving this one that we're going to see a Deadpool Christmas special 25% likely that it's going that way. This is promotion. I would be very, very shocked if this is anything other than promotional material. Moving right along, staying in the MCU, a little bit more meta in the MCU though. We now have rumor about behind the scenes activities saying that Feige is putting an end to the multiverse saga a little bit earlier than originally planned, to the point where, and this is the rumor, to the point where they are tabling all other projects that aren't getting us closer to the end of the multiverse saga, which is why we saw certain movies get bumped back, which is why Blade, one of the reasons, there's another reason we're going to cover, one of the reasons though why the Blade movie got completely removed, and why we don't see other promotional materials for other movies that are going to be coming into theaters right now. Aside from, obviously we have a couple that are in the pipe that are just about to launch. We have Brave New World and the Thunderbolts movie. Those two movies are going to be coming out. But aside from those, we have Spider-Man 4 is coming down the pike. We have Avengers Doomsday. We have Fantastic Four, and then we have Avengers Secret Wars. And then also, according to this same rumor, there is a mystery other movie that we don't know anything about yet. Oh, so, I mean, if you look at the way that they have actually cut things down as far as the quantity of movies they've been releasing, that was already pre-established. We already knew that. Iger came out and said, we need to focus on quality over quantity. We're going to be scaling back our releases as far as comic books and Star Wars and things are concerned. So that is definitely helping with this. And also the fact that it seems that there's a general consensus growing in the fandom that the multiverse stuff is just so passé. Nobody cares about multiverses anymore. It just gets too confusing. Why not just tell all of your stories in the same universe so that you don't open up these crazy possibilities that are just hard for normies to wrap their brains around. There's a growing sentiment that that is the way of things anymore. So all of that being said, and again, we're going to get into the Blade thing here in just a moment, but 60% likely that that is the reason why. And I didn't want to go that high even, but I feel like it is that likely, just because there's no way for us to really substantiate this. There's no way for us to confirm that this is why we only have 5 movies on the upcoming slate beyond just the Captain America and Thunderbolts movies. So yeah, we're just going to move on. Next up, staying with the MCU, we now have another rumor about the way the events of those 5 movies are going to be playing out. It seems that they're going to be creating 2 new universes throughout the course of everything in Spider-Man and those 2 Avengers movies that we already talked about. Those 2 new verses are going to be Battle World, which is going to factor directly into the Secret Wars movie, but also there's going to be another basically unnamed universe that is created by Dr. Doom, Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom, in order to convince Peter Parker of something, in order to get him on the side of Doom, perhaps. I don't know. It's because there's no the way the rumor is being sold, that is the reasoning, that we're trying to convince Peter of something, so we're going to create a whole new universe in order to do that. Seems like, again, something that normies just aren't going to be into, and that's the focus anymore, because that's the people that are going out and spending exorbitant amounts of money, because there are an exorbitant amount of them that go to movies. So for them to do something that is this specifically nerdy inside of the MCU just does not jibe well with everything else we know from the way that Feige runs the MCU. So I can't go above 30% on this. If it was just Battle World, if that was the only other universe that we're going to be bumping into over the course of the next 5 to 8 movies or so, whatever it was, then I would say I would be almost certain that was going to happen, because that is part of the comic books, and also isn't a crazy stretch if we consider the way that the Fantastic Four movie is very likely going to go as far as it pertains to multiverses and such and so forth. So yeah, I think one new universe to deal with, specifically Battle World, is not going to be difficult. But if we are doing 2 new universes, that just seems way out of hand. So yeah, like I said, 30% likely there. Next up we have, now let's get into some of that Blade stuff, shall we? Next up we have Midnight Suns. So the Blade delay is now being attributed to the existence of the creation of the Midnight Suns team in the MCU. Also, the Blade thing is because the Blade stuff is not going to be multiversal. It is supposedly going to be a smaller budget, much darker, and more grounded, which multiverse stuff is not exactly grounded. So that makes a lot of sense. But also, the report goes on to say that, and I hate this, I think this is just the silliest thing, The report goes on to say that they want to make Blade the Nick Fury of the Midnight Suns and the whole dark supernatural side of the MCU. And we've heard stuff like this previously, that such and such character was going to be the Nick Fury for this group of characters, and then such and such character is going to be the Nick Fury for this group of characters. And then even some of the DC rumors are saying that they wanted Batman to be the Nick Fury for these groups. Just silliness all over. So in spite of that, I think there's still a little bit of credence here. I think the Midnight Suns is a group that will do well in the MCU. I think that the characters are unto themselves well known enough that they can support their own movies. So if you make a movie with all of them together, just kind of makes sense. But it's a bad source, so we can't go as high as I would want to. We're 50% is where we're leaving this one because it's just a bad source. It's just a really bad source. Yeah, so that's what we got on that one. Next up is we have two brand new sources, two places I have never even read before doing research for this episode. The first of which being, Captain Hydra, the dark version of Captain America. It is being said that Chris Evans has been signed on to play Captain Hydra in the MCU. There's so much to unpack with that. Like, the easiest way of going about that is no. Chris Evans has said that he would return under specific circumstances, but also it seems that even if he does return under those specific circumstances, he doesn't want to make this a lifetime role. He just wants to do maybe once or twice again and then be done with it. So introducing a character like Captain Hydra, I mean, I guess they could kill him off in the movie that they introduce him in, but then they'd just be further perpetuating the issues that they have with villains and how they always just kill him off at the end of the movie. It just does not sit well in so many ways. And also, brand new source, so 20% likely that we're going to see Chris Evans as Captain Hydra. Good Lord. And then our final rumor for this episode is the Martian Manhunter. This one goes even further out of left field. So according to this rumor, Martian Manhunter is going to be happening in the DCU. James Gunn is going to be taking care of it, and they're talking to none other than Mahershala Ali to play John Jones. Why is this so hard? And the comment section for the where I got this, because it's from an Instagram page that I found. The comment section was eating it up, like, oh man, this is great, this is awesome. Why blah, 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 blah. Why do you just believe randos on the internet? I don't understand. No, Mahershala Ali is all about Blade. Just because they have removed it from the release slate right now does not mean that there is not work actively being done on that movie. Also, if you consider the MCU rumor about how everything's getting paused until the end of the multiverse saga, then you really don't have a leg to stand on, because that would be the reason why Blade has been... But Mahershala Ali and his people, his attorney or whatever it was, has said explicitly that he is signed on to do Blade. He will do Blade. Blade will be made with Mahershala Ali at some point in the not so distant future. Which means he has an exclusivity contract with Marvel to do that, which means he can't take certain other contracts very specifically to play other rival comic book characters. Like, that just, there is nothing about that situation that says that's a possibility. So we're gonna say 15% likely that we will be seeing Mahershala Ali as John Jones at any point in the next decade. Beyond 10 years, I will relinquish, but I just don't see that happening. And that's what we got for you this week, nerds, for the Rumor Mill. You should probably subscribe. Just a thought. Which puts us right into the housekeeping. And this week's housekeeping, first up, you probably already noticed, because I'm pretty sure this episode's going to be late, is that this episode is late. because time management is not the best thing for somebody with ADHD. And so I kind of forgot that I had a concert this week. That concert is Deontward, and I'm super stoked for it. And yeah, just gonna be a whole hell of a lot of fun. We're gonna dress up because it's Halloween time and just go do the thing. So that's pushing back this episode. And then that puts us into the month of November. Month of November is when we end the season and switch over to live shows. The end of November, usually actually the first week of December is when the live shows start. So that's where we are. That also means that we're ending seasons for other shows as well. That just happened. I don't have the time to edit, obviously, because we've now done 2 episodes of the regular show, and I still haven't edited That Just Happened from 2 weeks ago, so we're just gonna call it a season for That Just Happened. We will cover that information in the live shows a bit. And if you've never joined a live show, they're very interactive. You have all of the opportunity to contribute to the show just by being there. So for sure, check those out. I will post, before I go live, I will post when I'm going live so you can join. It's looking like it's very likely going to be Tuesday nights when the live show is going on, just as a heads up. So yeah, so we have approximately 2 weeks of the normal show. So no more That Just Happened, at least temporarily. We also I'm just going to do one more big shout out show for the second channel because I haven't put together the August one or the September one rather, and here we are at the end of October. So I'll put September and October together, and then we'll just that will also go away. But the big shout out show is what's going to be one of the things that I pre-record for the 2 weeks that I'm taking off round about Thanksgiving time. So long and the short of it is we're just focusing on the main show and the clips channel, and then we're also going to be dialing everything else back until we get the live shows. Live shows will be probably the first week of December, run through December into January, and usually runs through most of January, if not all of January, into the first week of February is usually how the season breakup works. So that looks to be the track that we are on. So we've got approximately 2 more regular shows. We're going to do 1 more shout out show. And yeah, that's going to be the end of the season. Then we'll be live shows in December. So I think that's all the housekeeping I've got. Thank you very much, nerds, for sticking around. If you stuck around this far, then I'm super incredibly grateful. And, I love your face. If you are falling behind in your nerd news, you want to catch up, there should be a box somewhere on the screen that you can click or tap and do all of the things so you can check out the playlist, because I do have a playlist for these episodes of The Week in Nerdom on the YouTube channel. If you're watching on Rumble, or if you're listening on one of the audio outlets, then go check out the YouTube channel or the Rumble. I guess that's, you can send some traffic there because they pay as well, but the audio does not pay very well. It's just good exposure. So click or tap the box if you're falling behind in your nerd news, you want more information, you want to be up to date on all of the things, then don't forget to subscribe as well. All of that being said, thank you very much, nerds, for joining me. We will see you in the next one, but before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.